Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of EduSteps Live in person here at the said Institute. I'm Olay Shorunke here with my good friend and founder, Festus Amoye. Festus, how you doing today?
Excellent, as always.
Wonderful. We are very blessed and honored to have another wonderful guest as we're moving to the end of Black History Month, moving into March. Someone who I've known for as long as I can remember, who's just been a wonderful pillar in the community and has been doing amazing things. An amazing leader and intellectual, and just super excited to have Dr. Remi Willoughby with us here this afternoon. Anything before I do the intro?
I've known her for a long time. She used to pull my ears in the classroom. This is the warning sign when Nigerians enter the school. You could just act whatever way you wanted until they showed up. And then I was like, I get my ears pulled. I might get popped, and then I go home and get the same thing. And then the worst part is, I couldn't lie to my parents anymore. They just did it to me because I'm this or that. And I was like, all of that's up and away. So thank you for being an educator, for being in my life, for being in the life of the community, for the work you're doing now. Yeah, I'm excited.
To that point, I think you brought up a really powerful moment in community where when I was in school and the substitute would be reading down the names and he'd get down to the S's and I'd hear, my boy, Olay. Hey, how's your daddy? When you get home, tell him so just say hi.
He knows your dad. Oh, every day. He knows your dad. You're gonna tell your big behavior today, aren't you?
Wow.
And then you get home and it's like your dad's like, you so to today, yes sir. Definitely good memories, man. Good memories. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this conversation started. Dr. Remi Willoughby is a prominent educator, STEM advocate, and an instructional leader based in the Houston area. She's widely recognized for her work in bridging the gender gap in technology and fostering computational thinking in early childhood and K-12 education. As a dedicated researcher and the founder of the G-Tech Club, she has spent her career empowering students, particularly young women, to transition from passive technology users to confident creators and engineers. She holds a doctorate in curriculum and instruction with a STEM emphasis for the University of Houston Clear Lake, where her work centered on embedding inquiry-based learning and computational thinking into early childhood classrooms. A frequent speaker and consultant, Dr. Willoughby focuses on building educator capacity, ensuring that teachers are equipped with the hands-on strategies necessary to inspire a diverse next generation of digital leaders and problem solvers. So with that being said, thank you so much, Dr. Willoughby.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. With this episode, this series, what we're trying to do is we're trying to basically honor our roots. And so we're looking at those who have gone before us, our forebears, and what they brought to the country, but also what they brought in terms of history makers. So tell us about your personal history. What was your journey like from Nigeria to the US, but also your educational journey in terms of how did you get educated? What was middle, elementary school, high school like? So tell us more.
Okay, I went to school in Nigeria. I did all my education all the way to my first degree in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, we don't have when I was in school, middle school and all that. You just went from primary 1 to 6, and from there you went to high school. So I went to a private high school, not because my parents were rich, but because it was just what was available. It was a missionary school, it was a Baptist school. And my primary school all through to primary 6. Then from there, I went to Baptist Girls High School in Ushu. When I finished, one of the shortcomings that I found in that system was that we didn't have guidance counselors. Other schools, they did. So nobody guided me. I wanted to be a pharmacist. But guess what? I didn't take any sciences except biology.
Wow.
And then I said, okay, I'll be a lawyer. I failed literature. So I kept applying for law school. I kept applying. And finally, after about 2 or 3 years, somebody that I knew just said, you can't go to law school, you have no literature. So there was no guiding. I think I would have made, my children think I would have made a better engineer than anything, but I would have loved to be a lawyer.
Yeah, wow.
Then it didn't work out. I come from a family of teachers, so it came naturally to say, okay, I'll just do education. So from there, Since I wasn't getting admission, my mother got frustrated. Now, you have to understand, my mother did not go to school. She couldn't write a name with anything. But she vowed that her children would not be robbed of education. So you will go to school. So she told me I was going to go to teachers training college. I said, that's for people who didn't pass high school. She said, did you pass? If you passed, you'll be in university. So don't tell me that's where you're going. So she took me to one of my uncles who was a politician. That one said, don't argue with my sister, don't stress her, go to wherever she asks you to go. So I went to UMC for 1 year, which is at that time they were preparing teachers for the universal primary education. That was like in the early 70s. So I did that, and from there, the next transition level is to go do an NCE. So I went to Adeyemi College of Education. But by that time, I now realized, hey, Remi, you need something better than this. Then from there, I went to University of Lagos. So I graduated from University of Lagos. So I've been an educator my entire life because that's what I know. My sisters, my brothers, everybody except for one of my brothers who did engineering, nobody else. Everybody was a teacher. And that's my journey. Then after I finished, I taught at Loyola College Ibadan. After youth service, I did my youth service in Port Harcourt. After I finished my youth service, I came back to Ibadan because I'm from Ibadan. Then I got a job at Loyola College. I taught at Loyola College from there with my MCE. That was before going to the university. Then I went to the university. When I finished, I started working in Lagos. I had met my husband then. So I just started working at one of the public schools in Lagos. After that, I got a job at the Green School, which is a private, top, high-class private school. So I taught there briefly, and then from there I came to the US. So when I came to the US, this was like in 1988 or something like that. It is 88 years. So everybody was like, okay, are you going to do nursing? And I know that my best friend then was a nurse. So I said, okay, maybe I can do nursing. But I applied to UCH at that time. I didn't get in. So I was upset. I'm like, I'm not doing nursing. If I'm not smart enough to go to nursing school, then I'm not doing it here. So I said, well, I'll just stick with education. Since I already have a degree, I'll just continue in the field of education. So from there, I did my master's. And then after that, I worked for many years. And then a few years ago, I said, having my PhD was a life ambition. When people ask me, what do you want to do with it? At this age, why are you doing that? And it's my dream. It's what I desire, what I've desired. And I wanted to achieve it, and I'm glad I did. So that has been my journey.
Wow.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. You know, if there's one thing I love, it's something free. I'm talking free 99, un gratis. No shipping or handling fees, no gotcha fees, nothing like that. With that being said, if you're graduating soon or thinking about college or need a nudge or help to decide, then our free ebook, 10 Things to Think About Before Going to College, has a very balanced and open-minded way of presenting your next steps. It captures broad topics in a personal way by giving students an insightful, interactive, and reflective source of inspiration. It is very beneficial to be able to visualize some of the concepts after high school and apply them directly to you. We all know life, college, and career planning decision-making choices for students can be challenging, especially as they near the completion of high school. This book will provide you with a self-paced guide to your success beyond academics and into real life. Not only is it free, you can complete this book within a week. This will definitely prepare you for long-term success. To get your free copy, simply go to lys.com/students. I mentioned it was free, right? Well, if I didn't, it's free. Like, for real, for real. Okay, back to the podcast.
So it's very interesting to me that in you sharing your journey, that you couldn't get into medical field or the legal field, but you have been able to basically pioneer tech and STEM education. And so can you talk to us a little bit about how, I guess, you started learning about science personally, and then how that kind of transitioned to some of the work that you've done in STEM?
Okay, so when I started teaching at Houston, at the Rice School in Houston Independent School District, I went for a conference. It's a conference of technology teacher educators. And there was this session on robotics. My friend was doing it. So she was like, come see what we're doing. So I went in there. And something just clicked in my brain that this is a problem-solving tool. So I told her, I said, Karen, are you aware that this thing is a problem-solving tool? Yeah, she said, I know. And the robot was the BeeBot. If you know anything about BeeBots, there's a small programmable yellow, looks like a bee, and you use it to basically teach little, I call them little people. We use it at my daycare. So it teaches them directions, left, come back, go forward. Basically, those are the instructions. So she wanted us to demonstrate it. And I guess there were about over 200 teachers. I said, I can do that, Karen. And it comes. So I went up. I said, that's easy. And I was shocked. I could not solve the problem. I was so embarrassed. She said, of course, eventually I did. But initially, I was like, what is this? Why is it not going where I want it to go? So I said, okay. So that was what brought me into it. I said, this is something, because one of my pet peeve is finding people who don't think. I just can't. It bothers me. So I wanted children to be able to think. She told me, this lady was a computer science teacher in high school. She said she realized that she was getting students who had no computational skills, who lacked creativity, critical thinking. So she decided to come to elementary school as a teacher, and that's where she was using the BeeBots.
Wow.
So I said, okay. So I told my principal that I wanted to be a robotics teacher. She said, robotics, what do you know about it? I said, nothing, but I'll learn. I already found out that I could go to Carnegie Mellon University. They have the National Robotics Institute. She said she was going to sponsor it. So I said, okay. But then, thankfully, I got two grants in 2 years from Fund for Teachers. That's what they are called. So they give you money. You can go anywhere in the world to learn whatever it is that you want to learn to benefit the children. So I went to Carnegie Mellon the first year. I got a partner, so we got $10,000. So we went there. We learned how to use robots. What is it? And of course, at that point, it was Vex robots that we used, which is far advanced than BeeBots.
And what year was this?
2007 or something like that. But before that, I had started in 2004. I got a grant from Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation. I was a member of the AUW, which is the American Association of University Women. So they gave me the grant first because I said I wanted to now use that computer knowledge, that technology knowledge, to teach children. So I formed the girls club, and like I said, I got some pushback from teachers. Why are they all girls? Why boys and all that? I said, boys get it all the time. Give the girls a chance. And what really encouraged me was, I was a computer teacher. So I was in the classroom, I was teaching at the right school. For 3 years I was in the classroom, but they noticed that I was always using computers. In fact, if something was wrong, the children knew that we would stop, because they would say, Miss Willoughby, what are you going to do? The computers are down. So they knew. So one day the principal just walked in, we were having a meeting. And when you are a teacher and you are having a meeting or just enjoying yourselves, and your principal walks in, everybody just disappears. And I was the team leader, so they're like, Miss Willoughby, we'll catch you later, you're on your own. So they all left, and I was left with the principal, and she said, oh, by the way, Remi, I came to ask if you'll be interested in being a technology teacher, because the person in the lab is leaving. I said, I'll be honored. So that's how I got into the lab. And then that's how things to begin to just spiral, and got the grant and started the girls club. So I noticed one day in the lab, a boy wanted to put a floppy, you remember the floppy disk? The small one, not the big one, in the drive. And he didn't know, he turned it the other way, and I was trying to push it, and I was watching. And the girl sitting next to him thought, oh, wow, you know what to do with that, and all that. So I didn't want to embarrass him, so I got up, and I went to him, and I took it from him, and I fixed it. And that was when I realized there's a problem. So I got a used computer, I brought it to the lab, I opened it, I said, guys, go for it. Whatever you can do, take it apart. All the girls, they stood around the perimeter of the table. The boys were like, yeah, they were just push it. I said, girls, come on, let's go. That was when I said, no, this is not right. And that's how I started the Girls Club. And they actually built a computer by the end of that year that was donated to one of the members, one of the classmates who didn't have a computer at home. It was a desktop. So that's how my interest started. And even when I was in Nigeria for 4 years, and I was training teachers, I would tell them, I studied French. I have no background in science. If I needed to teach a skill, as a robotics teacher, that I didn't know, the other middle school teacher where I worked is an engineer. So I would just say, Brian, we're going to switch classes tomorrow. You're going to help me teach this skill while I teach your class. And that was it. And I wasn't shy to ask for help if I needed it, whenever I needed it. So that's how I transitioned into robotics. And then when I retired in 2015, I went to Nigeria to train the teachers because I felt like our educational system needs a lot of restructuring, and whatever I could do in my small space, I was willing to do, and that was training teachers to have a better understanding of how to use STEM to engage children.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. I want to ask a little bit about getting girls to compete in STEM competitions.
Okay.
What was your mindset behind that?
Did the girls club? We didn't go to any competition with that group.
Okay.
But when I went to Nigeria, I made sure that, because the first year I got to Nigeria, I was invited by this organization called First Global Challenge. First Global Challenge is an international robotics competition that invites children from all over the world, ages 14 to 18. They assemble in one place in a country and they give them the challenge and they build a solution. When they called me, I remember telling the guy then, excuse me, I don't have any money. I don't know where we're going to get it. He said, don't worry, we'll find the money for you. And they did. They found us the money. We came to it was in the US. We brought 7 students, and only 2 of them were girls. And I didn't like that. I did not like it. Although one of them graduated last year in mechanical engineering from University of Idaho. So that's good. The other one did computer science. The next year we had three girls and 2 boys. Then the next year we had 4 girls and 1 boy. So I always try to push my team to look for girls. But I don't know why it's even easier in Nigeria than here, if you can believe it. Because Nigerians now, they have very limited careers. You're either a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, nothing else. There's no other career. So they push their children to that. And so it wasn't really hard to get them in Nigeria. But here is harder. It was harder for me. The girls that I had in the club, they are captive audience because they were in my class. They didn't have a choice. They were there. I didn't have to fish for them. And parents were excited and they supported it. But STEM is an area that needs to be developed. That's just a different story.
So I love the story you gave about just opening up the computer and the girls being
around the perimeter.
So from what you've seen, what are some of the lessons that you've learned to get girls to be in the middle, to want to go in it?
We need to start early. That's why I decided for early childhood. Like my daycare, not my the church daycare that I run, we use BeeBots. The children know BeeBots. They know, even the 2-year-olds, even though they don't use it, but the preschoolers, they use it and they know what it is, whether they're boys or girls. So I think that's number one. It doesn't have to be robots. It just has to be STEM. It has to be something that teaches them to think. It has to be something that pushes them beyond their boundaries, beyond 2 + 2 is 4. You have to walk them backwards. Okay, when I say, I was asking a 5-year-old the other day, what is 8 + 7? And he was like, okay, I said, we only have so many fingers. First of all, you can't borrow mine. So what are you going to do? So I used a strategy, put the 8 in your head, hold up 7 fingers and come forward. Oh, I know what he's able to do. And he started to create some questions for himself. So he said, if I have 11 in my head, I want to add 4, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is going to be, I got it. That's the kind of thing that a little girl, that's the kind of thing I want to see. Whether you're a boy or a girl, I just want people to think. I tell children when I was in public school, don't wear my brain out. You have one, I have one. Don't wear mine out. Use yours too.
That's one of the things they say, the best people are lazy thinkers. And that the lazy is the fact that they think of the least restrictive way to the solution, and then they try to get everybody else to do that, versus trying to be right as might, and I could show you through my strength and skills.
Absolutely.
So you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I want to ask about, you're born and raised in Ibadan. I love the history of Ibadan and the emphasis on education. That's a thing it's a trend I've been hearing about. Educators, we talked about that last week. Where do you think that comes from?
You mean as a group was? I know in my family, my mother was the driving force.
Both. In your family?
In my family, my mom, there was just nowhere to go. There was nothing left for you. because she believed, she would always say I was robbed. Because the first day she went to school, the teacher beat her, and her dad said, "No, no teacher can beat you," because her mother died at childbirth. She was an overprotected baby, and as such, she didn't go to school. She said, "I wish I would let the teacher beat me, whoop me, do whatever." But so that's from her. There's just something about, and I think it's, as long as one person is developed and they know, then it's like, let's go, like a balcony person. Yeah. I'm up here, you can join me. Let's go. They try to drag, pull, whatever to bring others up. So that's what I think when you talk education, it's very important to us.
Hey, LYS fam. It's Olay once again. You know, these days, many families are busy but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
And this is a little aside from the questions we have for you, but I think because we're here, it said it's an appropriate question. Is one, you talked a little bit about how it's easier to get girls into education in Nigeria than here. And now there's a bunch of conversation around gender roles and all those different types of things. Can you just explore that question of education back home? And then also, what historically have you seen the education styles been? And if there's a fall off, what do you think that fall off was?
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria and here. Because
in Nigeria, I think the main thing that I saw, I worked in Nigeria, I worked in public school, like I said, I taught at Loyola, I taught at Range. The focus is not on hands-on. And that is a problem. Yeah. I always, when I was in Nigeria this last few years, I would tell teachers, there's no topic that I cannot do hands-on, even reading. There's no way we would not do something, because you are using your eyes, your brain, everything is working while you are making. Here, I think the challenge that educators have here is testing. Students have been over-tested, that they don't know, teachers just prepare them for the test. Yeah. When I taught at the Rice School, my first year I had 9 centers in my classroom, and it was a multi-age, 3, 4, 5. We had cooking, we had sewing, we have the basic things. And the sewing was one of my parents that brought the machine, another one brought a microwave, another one brought a cooker. So if you are going to cook today, yesterday you must have decided what your team would make. You must go around and do your calculation. If you are doing pancake, how many boxes of pancake do you need to feed us? Go and ask, how many slices will you eat? Yeah. How many slices? You must. Are they not doing math?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but they are learning in real time. Yeah. For sewing, we didn't do much, but they did, made some doils and stuff like that. And we had computer. I had one of my parents built us a loft. The loft, my room was really big. The loft was a 10 by 12. That's somebody's room, but that's the loft. Wow. So, and all our computers were set underneath the loft. So if you needed to work on the computer, you went there. I had a child one day who was just falling asleep. I couldn't get her to open her eyes. So I said, what's wrong? I found out that her mom worked night and left her with 2 sisters, and she was in 3rd grade. So she didn't sleep. So I said, girl, go and sleep in the loft. When you wake up, come back down. She did. She came back down. She was ready to go. Now, I know that I was a very strict teacher. There's no question, as you all can attest to that. And I'm not ashamed of it, because I wanted you to be the best that God created you to be. I didn't want you to be anybody's substitute. And of course, I got in trouble a few times for that, but most of the time, the parents appreciated it. And so I think the issue with education here is the lack of hands-on. People don't understand. So I think it's even more popular now. Everybody is talking about it, even though they may not really know how to do it, how to make STEM real. Because you're talking about science, technology, engineering, math. When they talk of STEM here, they're talking science. That's it, science. And we do STEM, we do science, we do this and all that. But what about technology? What about, you can code without having a computer. You can do coding without a computer, you can do coding without a robot. You can use the children as the robot to code. Because the point is, you want, basically what the robot does is, you tell it, go, let go. That's almost everything. Hang up, come down, take this, drop it. You can have humans do that, but it has to be structured. Okay, so STEM is beyond science, and it's beyond, it's just science, technology, engineering. 1 year, for example, when I was at the right school, I told my 7th graders, I said, this year, we're going to build a chair out of cardboard. So they all looked at each other. They always thought I was crazy. They said, we always thought she was crazy, but we didn't know she was this crazy. And I told them that chair, I had to be able to sit in it. And I was bigger than this. If I fell down, you're all going to have a good laugh, but guess who would have the last laugh? You all fail. Yeah. So they started the project. It took us longer than I thought it was going to be 4 weeks. It took us 9 weeks. Yeah. At the end of 9 weeks, so I liaised with the art department. So they made their chairs, they went to the art room, they would paint, design, and then at the end of it, we sold the chairs for real cash. And we raised money for Make-A-Wish Foundation. Wow. After we took off all our expenses, I think we were able to still deliver 600 or something like that. Wow. Some of the chairs were bought by parents of the children who made it, but because it was a team, some parents were, over the chair because they wanted it. They made their own design. Some had armrests, some didn't. They are online. I can show them to you later. Wow. So that's my own concept. And what made me happy was the children, 7th grade, they were making the chairs, and I heard one of the team say, oh, we can use the Pythagorean theorem to create, if we want an armrest, so we have to use I don't remember Pythagorean theorem, but when I told their math teacher, she was so happy. Because that they are making it real. Yeah. And that's what STEM is about. That whatever you learn in reading, writing, math, all of that, bring it to reality. Yeah. Use it. The following year, the next class, when are we going to start the chair project? I'm like, you guys are too crazy. Because believe it or not, we only use 3 items. The cardboard, the X-Acto knife, and carpenter glue. Wow. That was it. Nothing else. And not a single child was caught. Because the rule was you couldn't use the knife if I was not looking at you. Not just that I was in the classroom. We have to have eye contact. You are using it and watching what you're doing. And then also another part of the thing that was fun was that they had a budget. Each team had a fake card, $800, and everything was rental. You're either renting or buying. So knives, for example, you rent. The cardboard you buy. Their parents brought the cardboard. We had a parent who worked at TSU. So whenever they bought box refrigerator, she hauled in the boxes. They bought this. So they had boxes. We flattened all the boxes. I had a huge classroom. So we flattened all the boxes, put them on the table. But you can't just go and get it. You have to buy it. So I put money, these are the items, this is how much they cost. So they're keeping their own record of how they're spending their money. Initially, everybody wanted to get the knife. Every team wanted the knife. So they will find out that the assignments they had to do before they got to the knife, that time was up. Then one day, one of them said, why did we get the knife? Why don't we share with that team? Let's decide which team I was just listening. Let's decide which team will use it first. Your team can borrow it. You guys can buy to lease today. We will share it. And so that way we're able to save our money because they saw that their money was going down real fast. It was a huge project. It was huge. It took us 9 weeks.
This is amazing because what you described is like a full project management experience.
100%. Gathering
budget,
resources,
gathering resources,
timeline,
all that stuff, collaboration.
We talked about who are we going to donate to. They had to agree. So because all of them were impacted by cancer, so they all agreed. So they mentioned other things. So they had to pitch. Your team must pitch why you want why you have to be the one that we should give the money to and all that. They did all that.
They actually do that in finance. Whenever you're introducing like some of these wealth management companies are introducing different things to invest in, you have to bring the perspective and the reasons why this is why we should invest, the beta, all these different sets. So that's amazing.
But you know what really made me happy? After I left the right school, I saw that in Madagascar, there was a company making cardboard furniture.
Wow.
For real, for sale. Of course, it wouldn't be the kind of boxes we use, but they were using cardboard.
Yeah.
I sent it to my principal. She was so elated.
Yeah.
I wish I knew about it then, because I would have told them, look, you can make business out of this.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like to go now, is the kind of nexus between education, entrepreneurship, and faith. Because I think there's a lot of people now, and we have a tough economy nationally here in the United States, but an even tougher economy abroad. Can you talk about that nexus of like how we can use our education in all of these ways? Because a lot of people now, everybody's a subject matter expert. And so because everybody's a subject matter expert, the general knowledge of how to bring these things together is really lacking. And so if you could talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, all kings are no followers. I think, this is me speaking as a STEM educator, that STEM is the solution. Because if we had teachers who can make STEM real to the children. When I was doing my research, I interviewed a teacher who did something similar in his first grade class. The children had to make something and sell it to their classmates. Of course, they didn't go into the details that I did. And at the end of the day, a student was crying. Why are you crying? Nobody bought my stuff. So the teacher was like, what did you make? How much time did you put into it? She said, I didn't put it, I just drew a picture. So what are you going to do next time? And the child was like, I'm going to think of what I could make. While other kids were making beads and necklaces, and he said, I'm going to do something that my friends would buy. So they had an opportunity to redo it, and that's what she did, and she sold, and she was happy. Those are experiences that will live with these children, so that when she grows up, she will know that, hey, I don't always have to be a user of this thing. I can also be a creator.
Absolutely.
And that's how I see entrepreneurship coming. If we can, because I don't think any of us received any training on how to manage money, unless you were in finance or something, when you were in school. No, there was nothing like that in high school. I remember buying a book for one of our daughters, for Shorunke actually, Money Doesn't Grow on Tree, when she was in 4th grade. And she read the book and she said, oh, okay, now Mom, I see why I have to manage money and all that. But my goal was just that, hey, you have to realize resources are not limitless. So if there's a way we can begin to, parents teach their children, teachers also bring lessons that allow them to do that. But unfortunately, testing does not give room for all that. Like the projects that I did other projects with children. The projects that I did, it was because I didn't have to do any testing. I wasn't responsible for testing. So I had the liberty to do that. After I left, the lab was converted to an English or math or something class. So I think the way I see, and I'm not saying it's the only way, I'm not an expert on whether it's the only way or not, but I know for a fact that if STEM is well taught, it will empower children to know that when I graduate, when I finish high school, when I can do other things. Like in Nigeria, we need children to be exposed to other things, not to be blackmailed or made to feel inferior if you say, hey, I want to do create tracks, all right, but also give everybody opportunities so that you understand this is how you do hair, for example, or this is how you make clothes. Expose them to that. When I was in graduate school, I was sewing for a living. I was sewing for people, for my classmates, making brides dresses and all, because I learned it as a child. So I knew how to do that, and that's how I was able to make extra money. So we need to teach our children, and I think STEM is a critical aspect of that.
Absolutely. Following on that line of STEM, if you look today, anything they're talking about, the big term is AI, right? And all this. What are your thoughts on it? I know we talked about it a little before we started. What are your thoughts on it? We're going to talk about it a little bit more, but I just want to get your general thoughts on it. And what does the future look like to you, or what are some of the things that we need to be aware of?
Okay, so what I used to tell my students is this: that technology is great, but the people that will control the world are those who can manage it. And I used to tell them that this was like 15, 20 years ago. There are those who can manage it, who can operate it, not just those who can use it, those who can troubleshoot it, those who can, if there's a problem, who can figure it out. Now, with AI, my concern, my greatest fear is that children are so dependent on it that they are losing the capacity to think, which is what, like I said, is a big deal for me. Hardly can you find a high school student that can write an essay that is purely generated by them. So where do we go? And I'm an anti-AI person. I know it has some values, but even when I talk to my daughter, who is also anti-AI, and we're trying to say, okay, let's try to see if there's some good in it. And I'm sure there are. I'm still working on getting what those things are that are good about it. Other than our kids are getting dumb.
I think that's a very powerful point, because the proponents of AI say it's the solution to everything. Billions of dollars is poured into some of these AI companies, whether they've made anything tangible or not. And so now it seems like AI is being forced down everybody's throat. You open your TV, Gemini, this, that, and the third, you open your phone, and it's there. And if you could signal to maybe something constructive that could be done both here in the US and abroad, leveraging AI and robotics at a small scale, what would that be? What would that be? If you say, hey, we could use it to do this, or we could use it to do that, or you could use it in your home, what would that be?
That's a tough question. I think, and this may not be the answer you wanted, but I think parents need to be more involved. Parents need to be more involved. They need to let children know the dangers of AI. It's good that if I pick my phone, like you said, AI, Gemini, or whatever, and I'm not saying I never used it. I used ChatGPT. But I also realized that 9 out of 10, or at least 8 out of 10, the answers they're giving you are not accurate. And you are, unless you, if you can't think yourself, then you won't know that this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it will say, there's always a little disclaimer
Yeah.
that it may not be accurate and all that. And then it will say you should check. Who else are you going to ask? Go to another AI and ask.
That's what they do now.
Yeah.
So you go run from one to another. As far as robotics is great. I love robotics. I think it's, I dream it. But when you now combine it with AI, I don't know. Honestly, I have to be honest. I don't know. And hopefully, if we find a solution, I'm interested.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful input. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to close, but we do have we have a small group here, some folks in the audience. If anyone has any questions, we would love to take any questions that anyone has before we close out. Yes.
So I wanted to ask how open Dr. Willoughby is to be back in Nigeria training teachers.
That's a good question. I was saying the same thing earlier.
As a matter of fact, that's my goal. That is my goal. Because like I said, when I finished my program, I just graduated last November. I was over 70 when I finished. And everybody was like, even my professors, what do you want to do with this? They didn't want to say as old as you are, but it was implied. And I said, I'm fulfilling a life ambition. That's it. So now I begin to think, okay, I would want to go back to Nigeria and actually train teachers. And my husband is currently in Nigeria. He's trying to help me do the groundwork and all that. That's my goal. I'm open to it. If you have an opportunity for me,
I do.
What did you say?
I do.
Oh, bring it on.
We do.
Bring it on.
Excellent question.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all my question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let me just say, this was an amazing. We've been really blessed and honored to have you, Dr. Willoughby, come and speak with us. And as I said previously, we've just, kudos to you, Festus. Kudos to OIS, because we've just been able to take it to the next level every year with just the quality and the conversation that we're able to have, especially as we keep in mind this mantra of think locally, act globally.
Yeah.
And we've really been able to get that going. So just really thankful to you again, Dr. Willoughby.
I'm very honored, and I must say in closing that I cannot be more proud of these two men who I knew as babies, and now they are grown adults with their own family, and I'm so proud of the men. And I know that you're going higher, you're going places, and the Lord God Himself will guide you through us to go.
We're standing on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're even having this episode, and that's why we wanted to honor you, and definitely looking forward to our next episode that will be shot shortly.
Yes,
You wanna close us out?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of EduSteps Live in person at the SAID Institute. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe to our channels. Put a comment in there. If you heard something that was really interesting or you have a question about, please be sure to put a comment in there. We'll be ready to answer and keep the conversation going. So, as always, for Dr. Willoughby, I'm Olay Shorunke. Thank you so much. Festus, go ahead and give us the phrase that pays.
So there are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. And we will see you on the next episode.